I'm just getting ready to extract some honey since we have a snow day today. And it's a Sunday. It's the last Sunday before I officially go back to work, which is a little bit depressing. But yeah, I used to keep bees with my dad when we were growing up, and I did an article all about it on Scribepond, which tells the full story. But this year, since I now have my house and my garden, I thought I'll get the hives and I'll bring them down here. They were empty because my dad became allergic to bees, so the more he got stung, the worse his reactions got, and then he went into anaphylactic shock at one point. So after that, he couldn't go in the bees, and I was travelling a lot, and I think I was in my late teens when it happened, so I wasn't there to look after them, so the hives kind of just fell into disrepair, and the bees either swarmed away or died out, because it's quite brutal up with mum and dad in terms of weather, so the winters are quite harsh. So this year I brought the hives down and spent a whole load of time cleaning them. I had to dismantle the full hive because when you leave them uninhabited, it was pretty gross. There was spiders, slugs, snails, silkworm things. It was just everything in there. So I had to pull it all apart, scrape everything down, clean it all, and then I resealed the hive, put it back together, put it in my garden. And then I started researching getting some bees, but by the time I'd kind of researched into it a bit more, I was getting ready to go to Iceland, as I do in the summer, and a swarm actually swarmed into my hive. So it's quite common in summer, if you have a hive that's too full, they'll make two queens, so they have their original queen, obviously they'll make a new one, and then half of the hive will swarm and leave the hive. So that's what they did, and they came into my hive, which was a good thing. But when you get into winter, you start feeding them. So this is my bee feeder, but you fill this up with basically really sugary water, and they come up the middle. Obviously this is full with liquid, and then they go down the inside of this and eat the food, and that fills them up and stocks them up for winter. So I fed them 2 of these. I actually met a local beekeeper as well who keeps hives up in the fields. We have like agricultural fields around here, and so I've learned a lot from him. And I was feeding them a couple of weeks ago, so you swap from liquid food to fondant once it gets to a certain temperature. So I put some fondant in, and there's lots of dead bees around the top, and so I messaged him and said, I don't know if my hive survived, do you want to come and have a look with me? So he came up and we had a look, and the colony, we checked it before winter, and it was a really good sized colony. They'd done really well, they had plenty of food stocks. I fed them as he advised, they took all the food, and they still died out. So I was a bit disappointed, but it was quite interesting because we found the queen, and a queen bee, so her bum is twice as big as every other bee because she's obviously the queen and she lays. And I don't know if I'll be able to show you, I'll probably have to film it separately, but she has pretty much turned into a normal bee. So this is what a worker bee looks like. They are kind of in proportion. I don't know if it's focusing, but I'll get some film of it. So this is what I mean by the queen pretty much she's obviously bigger than a worker bee, but yeah, her abdomen is usually out to about here, so it's like twice as long. I do have a picture, I'll try and insert it. And here you can see she's like shrunk down almost. Another reason that could have happened is she didn't get mated properly. So she mated enough to create a certain number of bees, and then, well, she ran out of sperm, and then she couldn't mate anymore. So, yeah. And so she has like shrunk down into a normal bee. And so I was talking to Martin about it. He was my beekeeper friend. And he said it looks like she's had a virus. So whenever she's a UK bred queen bee. That's why she's got that mark on her back. And she's obviously had a virus when she was bred, which is quite common in bees. And he said he lost 70 hives one year to a virus, which I was like, I think I would cry at that. So she has then bred a colony of bees with a virus in. So he thinks that they've just died out because of that. And you can get them tested and you can get people to come and check them. But to be honest, I trust his knowledge. He's pretty knowledgeable, and he's got hundreds of hives, so he knows what he's talking about. But yeah, so today, since these guys aren't going to eat the honey that was left in their hive, I am going to extract and hopefully end up with some honey. It's quite a lot of work. Like, we used to do it obviously when I was younger, and if you had full boxes of honey, you'd maybe get 60, 70 jars, maybe more. So it's kind of worth the mess, because obviously everything is very sticky. But yeah, I'm going to do it for probably like 10 to 15 jars of honey, which is still good. And I really want it because, well, my hay fever is really bad at the moment. Like, not right now, but in summer it's got worse. So obviously eating your local honey can help with that. And Martin was saying actually local pollen. So he collects the pollen and the honey. So you can take pollen every day, which is meant to help with hay fever. So that's my plan. But, oh, I thought I had the extractor in here. I need to wipe down the extractor and then get to work. This could be I've not extracted honey since I was about 15, so this could be a process. So this is a honey extractor. So you can put 3 frames in this one, and you basically just spin it. So you obviously uncap the honey and then put your 3 frames in and spin it, which is clever. So yeah, that is, oh, and there's actually even better. So I borrowed this from Martin. And when he dropped it off, he was asking if I had one of these things which you basically use to uncap your honey, and he must have forgotten that he's left his in the bottom of this, so that's actually really useful. So your basic process of extracting honey. These are your frames, which are full of honey, as you can see, and it's capped. So you have to uncap that with the fork that I showed before. Then you slide your frame into here, so you do 3 at a time, spin it, it spins the honey out, turn your frame around, spin it again, vice versa on the other side. And that gets the majority of your honey out, but it also collects quite a lot of crap, like there's a lot of wax and things in that. So then you have multiple sieves, obviously a coarse one, and then you go finer to get all of the, you know, all of the crap out of it basically. So yeah, you sieve it through multiple buckets until it's as sieved as you think it can be, and then you jar it. So ideally I would have liked the spinner higher up, because then you can sit a bucket under it properly, but we'll work with it, it'll be fine. It's too, I can't have it too high up because then I can't get it spinning. So yeah, that is the process that I'm going to start. But the first thing is uncapping it. So to do that, I'm going to have a bucket ready with kind of my biggest sieve, and then I'll put all of the cappings into this, so any honey that I accidentally scoop out when I'm uncapping it can go through this, and then I'll collect it. That's an extremely fine sieve. So yeah, get ready to start the process. So as you can see, that will all just sieve down into there. And then this is the spinner, so I want to spin it that way, and hopefully it'll start to spin out. So I'll let that slow down. You can see down the sides it's starting to spin out, and then it'll all drop to the bottom. So you can see now they're all empty. And then in the bottom, so that's from 3 frames, all of that honey, which is pretty cool. The hardest thing about this, because it's not like full frames of honey, is trying to get the balance of the 3 frames. So you want them pretty evenly balanced so that when you spin it, it doesn't rattle the whole thing. And I've got a really heavy frame and the rest are just not as heavy as it, so it's rocking around quite a lot. See, there's quite a lot of honey in the bottom, so when I'm turning this now it's actually catching the honey. So always have to double check that this is closed before you start, obviously, but do that. There's the first of the honey, which obviously it looks pretty gross at the moment, but it won't once it's filtered. Well, I'm slightly running out of kitchen space because I've obviously got the spinner up on the bench now as well, but this is my clean bucket. I'm going to start sieving into this one, so I'm going to sit this to one side, and I'll probably put that in front of the fire tonight and let it drain overnight, because it'll obviously drip very, very slowly. There are a few drips already on it, but it's very slow. And then I'm going to start with the finer sieve, because I don't actually think this is that bad. So I've just put the cappings into a bowl, because I'm going to start with my sieving of the actual honey. This is the coarser sieve, this is the finer one, and then I've just disinfected this bucket so that that'll hopefully be the final bucket and I'll not have to sieve it again. But every time, obviously you get honey on your fingers, and then every time I have to wash my hands because I know I'm not meant to be licking my fingers. So I think I've washed my hands about 20 times today. Although, to be fair, this honey is pretty much for me and maybe like friends and family, so it's not like I'm selling it. So this is how much I've got so far. There's still some in the spinner, but I need to probably set it up so that it's tilted so I can get the rest out. But I'm gonna just chuck a load of this in. And let the process begin. It's hard doing it by yourself, actually. Obviously I used to do it with Dad. So then you've got someone to pour, someone to scrape off the little bits of honey that are going to drop. So yeah, it's quite hard to do by yourself. But none of that has started dripping through yet. Okay, well I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to try and get some more out of the spinner while that drains down. The first drips are going through. I'm actually so excited to have my own honey again. Like, I know you can, like, since I know beekeepers now, I get honey from them. So for example, this is pretty much like, it's honey from round here, so it's probably more from wildflowers or crop flowers, whereas this is heather honey from around here. So this one is very runny, obviously very clear, which I think my honey will look more like this because my bees are just from around my garden. Whereas this is the heather honey, which is a lot thicker. And this has such a different taste. It's a really like distinctive taste. This one's very, very sweet and almost has like a tang to it. I don't know how to describe it, but honey straight from a beekeeper is so different from honey in a shop. The only honey I will buy from a shop now is like hard set honey, because I do really like that. But this is great for, you know, on your porridge, on pancakes, on yogurt, whereas this one's more, you have to obviously spread it because it's a lot thicker. But it just shows you the difference of different flowers, which I always think is so interesting. To be fair, this is actually a North Yorkshire honey that I got. I think Leanne gave me this, Scotland Tweed Gundogs, on Instagram. She just constantly gives me honey. I haven't actually opened it yet, so I might not open it yet. But £12 for a pound of honey. Like, that is, if I can get a couple hives going, I will be selling honey. But yeah, I'd love to know, it says on this who the beekeeper is, so I'd love to actually get in touch with him and find out what crops he put these bees onto to get set honey, because I would love to end up with some of this. So this has been straining all afternoon. As you can see, there's not much left on there. So yeah, I'll either try and melt this down and turn it into maybe a couple candles, or just get rid of it. I haven't quite decided yet. Pretty much done. I've had it in front of the fire. Try and finish it off. Now the real question is, do I sieve it again? There is like a really fine sieve to put it through, so that's the next question. Well, I was trying to decide what to do, because I have like a super fine sieve, which would be the final strain if I do it. I think I might, to be fair. There's just little bits in it, but I'd like to see how clear I can get it. So yeah, I think I might start straining it through, which will probably take a few hours. I mean, I don't have to stand with it, I can just fill it up and then come back to it later, but yeah, I'd like to see how clear I can get it, so I think I'm gonna start straining it again. That is going to take a while, but I think it'll be very clear when it comes through the other side. Wow, that is going to take a while. Well, I finally finished filtering this honey. I put it through a sieve overnight, like a really fine, almost like a mesh one, and it took all night to go through it. So yeah, it is finally done, and I've got my jars ready. So I'm gonna jar some of it. So I have pound jars. So usually this would be in a bigger bucket, which is in my haul currently when you do a big batch, and it has a nozzle on the front so that you can turn it and obviously jar it a lot easier. I didn't have that much honey this time, so to mucky that bucket is pointless, I think. So I'm just gonna use a ladle. I feel like I nearly called it a spatula. Ladle. And yeah, scoop it into these jars. And hopefully, once it settles, it'll be pretty clear. But it's looking pretty good. Need to now try and not make a mess. I've ended up with 16 jars of honey, which is pretty good. One of them is, so like the grainy bits that wouldn't go through the finer sieve, I've kept that because I'll cut it, or to be honest, I'll eat it on toast. It's just got bits of wax in and I'm fine with that. And then the rest, it's not settled yet because obviously I've just poured it in, but should settle to be pretty clear. So yeah, I'm so happy with that. I mean, it's a lot of work to extract it, but I didn't think I would get 10 jars, so for 16 jars of honey, I'm pretty happy. And this is my first ever poured honey from like my bees by myself, so I'm going to keep that. So yeah, I'm very happy with that.